Hey, Pastor Steve Waldron, I hope you're having a great day or night in Jesus. I want to talk to us a little bit about the biblical case against racism. And no, this isn't virtue signaling. This is just, I'm a creationist and I've studied creation science for a few decades now, and just a Bible believer. And so as you read the Bible, you quickly see that there really couldn't be any racism. So let's get started. We may go into some issues that people bring up with this. Again, thanks for being here. I hope you're having a great day in Jesus. And so Adam and Eve, garden, all of us come from Adam and Eve. I remember reading a genetics study several years ago that said because of extremely small accretions or defects in DNA over the years, it just casually mentioned that they didn't think that humans could last over 300 generations because these extremely small accretions over the course of 300 generations would accrete to the point that the DNA would be defective and it wouldn't be able to go into the next generation. So we all come from Adam and Eve. God likes variety, just as I don't think almost nobody disputes that St. Bernards, Chihuahuas, Poodles, Great Danes, and everything in between come from two original archetype dogs, that God just likes variety. I was so shocked. I was looking, I think it was the Labrador Retrievers that are only like 150, 175 years old, that they just genetically bred these for that. Horses get bred, cows get bred, Brahma bulls, and all this kind of stuff. And so God likes variety. One of the most telling pictures I've ever seen on this particular subject is in Walt Brown's book. He's got a PhD from MIT, used to teach, I think, at the Army War College. And he's got just this picture with dozens of faces of all ethnicities and cultures around the world. And just looking at that picture, you quickly see that, there's just a little bit of difference in melanin between us all. What was it out of, 3.1 billion parts of language in the deoxyribonucleic acid, the DNA, between, let's say, white and black, there's only like 6 differences, which statistically is insignificant. It just means absolutely nothing. And I know some people go into sickle cell. I've read studies on how sickle cell is in various other cultures, in America's particular thing. But anyhow, so we all come from Adam and Eve. And then after that, about 1646 years after creation, according to Archbishop Usher, you have a worldwide flood. So we're all coming from Noah and Mrs. Noah. And I hope that doesn't end up in some video somewhere, me doing my hand like that. But anyhow, we come from Noah and Mrs. Noah, and Shem, Ham, and Japheth. We still call Semitic people from Shem to this day. And so some would even call Hamitic peoples and all this. And so we're all of one race, and it's just obvious from Scripture. Now, a couple of the pushbacks against that. First of all, you've got Canaanites versus Israelites. Well, yeah, you do, but that was a matter of not race per se, even though the seed of Abraham and that kind of thing, but it was the worship of the one true God versus idolatry was really the big thing there. And probably more than we could go into in this video, it's that God choosing this one man, Abraham, through, and there's tons of myths and Jewish myths on that particular episode, in the book of Jasher and various other things about what was actually going on there, why God chose Abraham versus Nimrod and all of this kind of stuff. Who knows if there's any at all kernel of truth in that. We only know what's true is in Scripture. And so, but yeah, there's like no racism there. It's just Abraham still came just a very few generations before from Noah and Mrs. Noah. And so the whole concept, I was shocked the first time I read this and I checked it out. The word race is not in Scripture as far as people group. We run the race set before us, but as far as people group, it's not. It's nations, tongues, these type things, but not race. And so we're humans. And so then somebody else brought up, and I've heard this from multiple social groups. They said, well, we're like birds, that birds don't mate between themselves. And I'm like, no, I think we're more like mammals, that, cows can mate because between various iterations of cows, because, it goes back to, is the progeny sterile or not? And the answer is no. So again, that still goes back to the human race. And again, this has nothing to do with virtue signaling. This is just basic things from the Bible. And, online sometimes I see such horrible comments about various things. It's all about culture. It's got nothing to do with skin color. And, various cultures are the determining factor. You might say, well, now certain areas have certain characteristics. Well, that's to be expected in genetics when certain people are having a certain diet and a certain climate, mating with certain people in a certain area over a certain time. There's going to be a mean, M-E-A-N, an average that comes about. But even in that, like in Africa, all of a sudden you'll have an albino something. I've read about this, that they get severely persecuted and all this kind of stuff. And so it's just, it's a lot of this. If we just follow Scripture, Satan does try to divide us. And if you look at the works of the flesh in Galatians 5, that's just part of it, is division is the work of the flesh. And I'm not talking about division doctrinally and all of these kind of things, but just in non-essential matters. And it goes back to marriage and these type things. The qualification for marriage, it was never about, well, is your melanin color, whatever. It's all about, are they a believer or not? Are they saved or not? Are they correct biblically, doctrinally? So, that's the biblical case against racism. God bless. I love you. I ain't got nothing else. We'll see you. Bye-bye.